Livio is from the plane of Fior or Fiora. Where's Marchesa from, Joe? It's Fior, right?
Yeah,
Fiora is the proper pronunciation. I remember seeing that in the blurb they spelled it Fiora, and I'm pretty sure it's Fior.
I think it is.
Um,
I think that was a typo.
there were several typos, but that's because it's wizard quality. Anyways,
Which has
Livio,
diminished over the past several years.
Livio's really cool because the whole idea is that he was this knight, right? And he was like a member of a royal house or like a high ranking house, like he owned land. He was a nobleman, and he was the only son. And his dad was, like he loved his dad and everything. He did everything nobly, right?
Mhm.
But then his dad, he realized, was super cruel because the entirety of Fior is super corrupt. It's like America circa 2016 to 2020. It was
Oh, I was
like,
there. It
yeah, I was there too. It was a great time.
was
So
terrible.
the point is, basically what his dad does is he just destroys a village full of innocent people for no reason, just to spite another nobleman.
Oh, I was there.
I'm sure you were. Um, I was doing the spiting. But basically, Livio sees this and he's like, that's not what I'm about. That's not what I want. I don't believe that that's right. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tear off my crest. I'm going to renounce my family name and I will simply be Livio. And he goes out and he vows to defend, he swears by oath to defend those that cannot defend themselves. All the peasantry, all the villages, he's going to protect as many of them as he can. Now, like I mentioned, Marchesa is currently queen, right?
Mhm.
And Marchesa thought he was
Well, I
hilarious.
guess I am.
She thought Livio was hilarious because he was this happy little idyllic knight that was going around saving people for no reason, and he was just a wild card kind of deal in all the machinations. He was just like a little wrinkle that would show up, and she'd be like, "Okay, this guy's getting too powerful. This crime lord,
Monkey.
monkey, um, and this crime lord's getting too powerful." Livio shows up, cuts down the crime lord. She's like, "Oh well, that's solved." But then Livio did something he shouldn't have. He actually did something to Marchesa's steez, and now she
Her
is
style and
considered
ease.
her style and her ease, and she's now considering killing Livio. So I thought that was really cool that they kind of introduced this character as a possible like paladin. He is a paladin, but like an actual like positive force in
Fior.
Fior,
I love
because
it.
the closest thing we really had, I'd say, was Savala and Duretti. Savala because she was, I mean, she's just trying to like keep nature safe,
And
but
any place that Duretti is a positive influence is not a good place.
exactly, Duretti is literally an iconoclast that just blows stuff up, and Savala doesn't actually care about anyone. This guy literally is there, like a champion of the people, and I think that's really cool, and I love that about him. I
It's
love him.
amazing. We will have him killed though.
Yeah, he will probably die, but
Reign
that
on
said,
forever. The
his
queen.
partner, I think, should be the Kadama of the East Tree.
Hey,
Whenever
that's
another
that guy with the reach.
yes, but whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put into play with that ability, you can put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield.
Oh, doesn't that
So,
guy blink stuff?
yes, he does. You can pay mana to exile something, and then pay 3 and tap him to return all cards exiled to the battlefield.
Oh, and if you have green in your color, you're blinking some big stuff and then getting some big stuff from that guy with the reach.
You can Thragtusk things, and of course, like Joe just said, whenever those creatures come in from his ability, they'll trigger the Kadama, letting you drop your entire hand. So if you're playing
That's
nothing but
awesome.
permanents, yeah, it's crazy, and I love it. He's only 2 mana, so he immediately starts working. Also, cool thing about him, he exiles them with Aegis counters. So if he gets killed, say there's a board wipe, you can just tap a ton of mana, which that deck would have a ton of mana, save all of your creatures, and then cast him the next turn. If you have some kind of boots, you then put the boots on him, tap him, all those creatures come back immediately because they had the Aegis counters and they stick around in exile while he's gone.
Interesting.
There's a lot of potential with him, and I there's a lot of stuff that I like about Livio. So yeah,
He is interesting.
what do you think, Joe? Like concrete idea.
It's such a cool concept.
It is.
Like I was having trouble trying to figure out where he was from before. Like, is that Boros? No, that stance is Boros, but he doesn't look Boros at all.
He
He look
acts very Boros.
he looks very Boros, but at the same
Yeah.
time, just like that's not the Boros armor. That's not a Legionnaire. That's where else would
Is-
have knights? And then you said Fior. I'm just like, are you sure? Could you check?
But yeah.
It's like we can't have a Boros guy in a plane entirely full of Demir people. What are you talking about?
We get rid of those really quick.
I like him. He's a really cool concept.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Kind of simple.
It's true. Okay, so this one's also interesting. Not as interesting as Livio, but Prava, uh, he's from an unknown Roman plane. As you can see from the crest on his helmet, he is Roman inspired. And what's really cool about that is that we already had, I think her name was Lycia. She was a vampire triumvirate Roman character. And she was also from an unnamed plane. She was Mardu colors. And in his story, he's basically a rebel. He specifically is fighting her in his little blurb. And that's his whole spiel, is that he specifically is trying to stop that person from existing
Well,
and
he won't
taking
lose.
it's not a good look for him. I mean, he's uncommon, so you can't expect much. But what's really cool is that they make a distinction because Lycia, she kills her entire team. She doesn't care what happens to her army. Prava's whole deal is that he will not let any of his soldiers fall. He will do everything he can to protect his entire army, and he barely ever loses anyone in battle.
This is Sparta.
Basically. And even though Spartan, the whole 300 story is Greek, but that's another thing entirely. But
I
that's
thought it was
reflected.
Sparta.
It's reflected in his card. As long as your turn, creature tokens get +1/+4. His whole idea is keeping all your soldier tokens alive. They all become 2/5s, which are really hard to burn off.
True.
And you're not going to waste a kill spell on them. You're going to kill him first. But the perfect commander to team up with him is Tevish Sat, the Doom of Fools.
Why?
He creates 2/0/1 black thrall tokens
Okay.
super often. So that means that this guy, paired up with him, is going to make a bunch of 1/5s, which are going to gum up the works. 2 1/5s a turn is super annoying because your opponent is going to have something really big to get through them. Otherwise, even if it's trample, those 2 1/5s could probably just stand in front of one big guy and one would survive on most occasions, unless it's an Eldrazi. So obviously,
it's 4 times.
and it's once again, it's a black-white strategy. So it's black-white tokens kind of deal.
11.
And they would all go great with that. And I mean, Tevisat, we'll get to him. I love Tevisat. He's super cool.
We will
But
see.
yeah, what do you think of Prava, Joe?
So I like the fact that we're getting a Roman plane because that kind of opens up like interdimensional stuff with Theros in that plane.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome. Just like, oh, this is Heliod's parallel. Just like, what?
Well, I have heard Mark Rosewood talks about how the Roman characters, the Roman plane, would probably not have gods. And it would be more focused on the military aspects and the triumvirate. But more like the triumvirate kind of thing, like Julius Caesar style stuff, or Alexander. Meow.
That's really cool. How long has this episode been?
Focus.
Okay, Wii Fit Trainer. I've been wanting to see this one.
Okay, so Radiant. Tell me what you know about Radiant, Joe.
Nothing other than her name. Is she related to Sarah at all, or is she?
Super duper.
Yeah.
Now, basically, the idea is that Sarah was a planeswalker. Obviously, she made angels. That was kind of her deal, and she had her own plane, Sarah's realm. It had one card that was enchantment based, and it had I think a plane chase card that blew everything up. Now the reason it had a plane chase card was it the one that blew everything up? No, it made everything indestructible. I don't remember what it did. The point is that Sarah disappeared from her plane. She left it, and she left it in the care of Radiant. Radiant was then put on that throne that you see with the lions on the thing and everything. All around her were basically, it was a panopticon. She was able to see the entirety of the plane all around her, right?
Okay.
But she was not a planeswalker. Radiant was just a normal angel. And as a result, she kind of couldn't comprehend everything that she was seeing, because obviously at the time, planeswalkers are godlike in their capabilities. So Radiant was slowly being corrupted by her advisor, who was a Phyrexian sleeper agent. And what he did is he set up these things called soul torches. And what soul torches do is they apparently would show her where Phyrexian sleeper agents were across Sarah's realm, because there was a ton of normal humans that lived in that realm. Because Sarah, being godlike in power, was able to create humanity on her plane. And so
she made the angels, right?
Yeah, she made the angel. She could make anything. She made the plane, but the plane was pure white mana, which already made it inherently unstable, because you can't make something out of just one thing. It needs to be balanced. It's kind of the whole thing with Alara. But back to this. The Phyrexian sleeper agent, I think his name was like Groteg.
Shards.
Yeah, Groteg or something like that. He basically was telling Radiant, hey, go kill those people. They're bad guys. If you kill them, it'll be huge. And so she'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And so she goes, she kills all those people, and then their souls get sucked into the soul torch. And he goes, it's supposed to do that. What she didn't know was that those soul torches were converting their souls and the mana, pure mana, into black mana that was seeping into the plane, further corrupting it. And so by the time Urza shows up, because he wanted to go like basically to get their help, because he was going to fight them, fight the Phyrexians, Radiant is like, thinks he's evil. She doesn't trust him at all. And she's like, you know what? If you come back here, I'm going to kill you. That's obviously a super short version of what happened, and it's super epic, and I would love to go into more depth on it. If you want to know more about that particular bit, you'll definitely want to leave a comment saying, hey, let's talk more about that. But
I want to know more about that.
It's really cool. But what happens is that Urza does visit one more time, this time with the Weatherlight. The Weatherlight's a super epic ship, sky ship. But in order to make it work, like extraplanar travel, he needed the Weatherlight to have its core basically have a planar battery. And so he was going to ask Radiant for help. He already knew the thing was collapsing, the entire plane was collapsing, and he was going to basically evacuate everyone that he could and collapse the plane and put it into the battery. Radiant does not like that idea at all. She's like, you're evil. Everyone around me is evil. I'm the only sane one here. They're coming across the border, and it's terrible. So what she decides to do is rip out Urza's eyes, which are
She's
power
the one
stones.
who takes Urza's eyes.
She does. They were Power Stone eyes at the time. She rips out his Power Stone eyes, and Urza's like, oh, snap, I'm dying. And she's like, yes, you're dying. While this is happening, the Weatherlight crew is getting all the normal people that they can onto the ship to protect, like, just to get them off the plane, because obviously they're innocents. They don't deserve to die. And while this is happening, Radiant's like, ha, I got your eyes. And then she tries to fuse them together. But obviously, once again, she's not a planeswalker. These stones, which I'm going to talk about basically in the next character, just kind of don't rupture. Well, they do. They rupture and they go back to normal state and release this huge blast of energy. Radiant's like, oh, snap, I'm dying. And so she freaks out, and Urza's back to normal. And he's like, peace. And he leaves with the Weatherlight and all the people. And
back in their sockets?
Yeah. And they escape. Urza collapses the plane, and Radiant dies. Radiant realizes in the end that she was the one that was blind. She was the bad guy, and she realizes that. And it's actually super tragic, because she was just trying to protect her people. She was doing what she thought was the right thing, and she was killing innocents because of it. This is a storyline that kind of gets echoed much, much later in more recent time with Avacyn, who also is driven insane by an extraplanar entity and kills innocents because she thinks they're impure.
That's insane.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's awesome, and I love it. Real quick. Just checking. Yes. No. Yes. No.
That's the next episode. Chill.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, for Radiant, I'm trying to figure out which of these two was she going to team up with. Um, I'll actually just say both of them. So Radiant would actually team up well with either Siani. I would say Siani mostly because of the fact that she is. They're both deal with flying creatures. They have a flying focus. They're definitely meant to be in a skies deck together.
Skies.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Rebecca could actually have her own episode. I could. Do you want to do an episode entirely on Rebecca?
No, but okay.
No, like Joe, do you actually want to because of the time wise?
Yeah, I'm down to hear it.
Okay, we'll do an entire episode just Rebecca. Maybe Rebecca and Glacian
Okay.
because they're connected, and that'll lead into the blues. But
So we're going to go ahead and see you guys tomorrow with a super episode of the partners with the Power Stones and the Floyven and the Gloiven.
thank you, Mr. Finkel.
It's
Dr.
Frank.
Finkel? Frink. Dr. Frinkle. Finkelstein.
I caught up with The Simpsons, by the way.
Like you're finished?
31 seasons. I am waiting for the show to update now.
You're an absolute mad lad.
It's insane.
You're insane.
Correct. Bye, guys. I see yellow people.